Imagine placing a block on a ramp. You know gravity pulls it straight downward, but the block does not fall straight down. It slides along the surface. So here's the question. If weight points downward, why does the motion happen down the incline? This video is about the hidden geometry behind that motion. We will separate gravity into components, identify the normal force, and use Newton's second law to predict the acceleration, speed, time, and normal force for a rock sliding down a frictionless incline. We have already learned that forces are vectors and that a net force causes acceleration. In this lesson, we will apply those ideas to two of the most important forces in mechanics, weight and the normal force. Weight is the gravitational force that Earth exerts on an object. This means weight is not the same thing as mass. Mass is an inherent property of an object and is measured in kilograms. Weight is a force and is measured in newtons. Near the surface of Earth, the weight of an object always acts downward, toward the center of the Earth. On a small diagram, we usually draw the weight vector straight downward and label it W or sometimes mg. The magnitude of the weight is given by W equals mg, where m is the mass of the object and g is the magnitude of the acceleration due to gravity. On Earth, g is approximately 9.8 meters per second squared. So if an object has a mass of 5 kilograms, its weight near the surface of Earth would be 5 kilograms times 9.8 meters per second squared, and that gives 49 newtons. Notice the units. Kilogram times meter per second squared is a newton. So weight is a force. It is also important to say that weight is a vector. Its direction is downward. If we choose upward as the positive y direction, then the y component of weight is negative. The direction matters. Many students remember W equals mg but forget that the weight vector points downward. In force problems, the direction of the force is just as important as its magnitude. Now let's look at normal force. The normal force is a contact force exerted by a surface on an object touching that surface. The word normal means perpendicular. So the normal force is the component of the surface force that acts perpendicular to the surface. In this example, the weight of the object points downward and the normal force points upward. If the object is at rest and there are no other vertical forces, then the net force in the vertical direction is zero. That means the normal force must have the same magnitude as the weight. So for this special case, normal force is equals to weight. And since W equals mg, we can write N equals mg. But we must be careful. This result is only true for this simple situation. A horizontal surface, no vertical acceleration, and no additional vertical forces. The normal force is not automatically equal to mg. The normal force adjusts depending on the situation because it's a contact force supplied by the surface. A better way to think about it is this. The normal force is whatever force is needed perpendicular to the surface to satisfy Newton's second law in that direction. Let us look at two examples that show why the normal force is not always equal to the object's weight. In both examples, the object has weight of 15 newtons. So gravity pulls downward with 15 newtons in each case. But there is also an additional force of 11 newtons. In case A, the extra 11 Newton force pushes downward on the object. The surface must now push upward hard enough to balance both the weight and the extra downward force. Since the object is not accelerating vertically, the net force in the vertical direction is zero. Taking upward as positive, the equation is the normal force minus 15 newtons minus 11 newtons equals 0. And that is equals to normal force equals 26 newtons, because here we can bring this 15 newtons and 11 newtons to the other side of the equation, and that end up being added together, giving us 26 newtons. So in this case, the normal force is 26 newtons. So in case A, the normal force is larger than the weight because the surface must support both the object's weight and the additional downward force. Now let's look at case B. The 11 Newton force pulls upward on the object. Now the surface does not need to push as hard because part of the weight is already being balanced by the upward applied force. The vertical force is N plus 11 newtons minus 15 newtons. Now solving for N, we can find the normal force is now 4 newtons. So in case B, the normal force is smaller than the weight. Now these examples show that the normal force is determined from Newton's second law. We do not assume N equals mg unless the force balance actually supports that conclusion. This idea will be essential for inclined planes because on an inclined plane, the normal force is perpendicular to the surface while weight points straight downward. They are no longer opposite vectors. Now we are ready for the main application. A rock slides down a frictionless plane inclined at 30 degrees. The rock starts from rest at the top and the length of the incline is 3 meters. We are asked to find four quantities. Part A, the acceleration of the rock. Part B, the speed of the rock when it reaches the bottom of the incline. Part C, the time required to reach the bottom. Part D, the normal force acting on the rock. The mass of the rock is 5 kilograms. Before we begin calculating, let us think about the physics. The incline is frictionless, so there is no friction force opposing the motion. That means the only forces acting on the rock are weight and the normal force. The weight points straight downward, and the normal force points perpendicular to the surface. Because the normal force is perpendicular to the incline, it does not point directly opposite to the weight. Therefore, the normal force cannot cancel the entire weight. Only the component of weight perpendicular to the incline is balanced by the normal force. The component of the weight parallel to the incline remain unbalanced, and that component caused the rock to accelerate down the ramp. This is the key idea of the problem. Gravity is vertical, but the motion is along the incline, so we choose axis that matches the motion. When we do a problem, we first define a coordinate system. So in this case, we define our positive x axis along the inclined plane. So you can see here, and the positive y axis perpendicular to that. Now, as you notice, this coordinate system is rotated because coordinate system is something that we define, so we can define it any way we want. In this case, it makes it easier for us to solve the problem if we rotate the coordinate system in a way that the x-axis is along the inclined plane. So when you do that, our motion is only along the x-axis. So it's easier for us to work on it. Now, if you look at this angle right here, this is 30 degrees. So that means the angle here is 90 minus 30 degrees, because the total internal angle of a triangle is 180 degrees and this angle is already 90. So that means these two angles have to be 90 degrees in total. In that case, this angle is also 90. So that means if this is 90 minus 30, this angle right here had to be also 30 degrees. So we can say, okay, this is 30 degrees. And then we can find the x and y component of this weight force based on this information. Before we talk about calculating the components of the weight force, let me remind you these trigonometric relationships. If you remember, if we have a right triangle, then if we say this angle is theta, this part is the opposite and this part is the adjacent, and this part right here is the hypotenuse. And sine theta is equals to opposite divided by hypotenuse. So opposite is equals to hypotenuse times sine theta. And cosine theta is equals to adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So adjacent is equals to hypotenuse times cosine theta. Now we use this in our calculation. Now if you notice here, this angle is our theta and this is 30 degrees. Now the x component w sub x is opposite to this angle right here. So the opposite is given by h sine theta. So that means we get the x component of our weight force by using the sine. So we have the x component of the weight force from mg sine theta. And then the y component of the weight force is from mg cosine theta, because this y component is adjacent to our angle theta. So that means adjacent is equals h cosine theta. So the y component is given by mg cosine theta. And then you have to think about the sign of this component. So the x component is pointing in the positive x direction. So that means the sign is positive. And the y component of the weight force is pointing in the negative y direction. So we have to have a negative sign in here. Let's look at the solution. First, write the known values. So we know that initial velocity in x direction is 0 and the angle theta is 30 degrees. We also know x minus x naught is equals to 3 meters. For part A, we need to find the acceleration. So from Newton's second law, force in x direction is equals to mass times acceleration in x direction. So from this we can write force in x direction is mg sine 30, and that is equals to max. Now as you can see here, m cancels out, so we can find ax is equals to g sine 30, and g is equals to 9.8 meters per second square. So multiply with sine 30 you find AX is equals to 4.9 meters per second square. And part B is asking what is the speed when it reaches the bottom of the incline. So for that, we can look at our kinematic equations and figure out which equation to use. In this case, we do not know the time and we do not have to find the time yet. So we know the initial velocity, we know the acceleration, we know the change in position. So the best equation to do this part of the problem is this third equation here in our kinematic equation list. So the only unknown here is the final velocity, because we know the initial velocity v naught, we know the acceleration, we know x minus x naught. So we can use this. So let's use this equation. So we can substitute the values. So v naught x is 0. So we get vx square is equals to 2ax, and then x minus x naught is, let's say, delta x, and this is equals to 2 times 4.9 meters per second square multiplied by 3 meters, and then this is equals to 5.42 meters per second. For part C, how long does it take the rock to reach the bottom of the incline? So let's first write down the known values now. We know the final x velocity Vx, which is 5.42 meters per second. We know the initial x velocity V naught x, which is 0. We know the acceleration in x direction, 4.9 meters per second square. So we know all this information. Now we can look at our equation list and see which equation to use. So if you look at the kinematic equation list, in this first equation, we know the final velocity, we know the initial velocity, we know the acceleration. Only thing that we don't know is t. That's what we want to find. So we can use this first equation. And this v sub 0x is 0. So we get this equation Vx is equals a sub x times t. So t is equals to v sub x divided by a sub x. So that is equals to 5.42 meters per second divided by 4.90 meters per second square. And this gives us the time 1.11 seconds. And for part D, calculate the normal force acting on the rock. The mass of the rock is 5 kilograms. So the normal force is equals to the y component of the weight force, because we do not have any motion in y direction. So there's no acceleration, so there's no net force. That means this normal force is balanced by the y component of the weight force. So this normal force is equals to mg cosine theta, and that is equals to 5 kilograms, and then g is 9.8 meters per second square times cosine 30 degrees, and we get 42.4 newtons. So that is the normal force. The most important conceptual point is this: the component of gravity parallel to the incline causes the acceleration, while the component of gravity perpendicular to the incline is balanced by the normal force. Once you choose axes along and perpendicular to the ramp, the problem becomes much easier to solve.